the biggest questions you have regarding the new regulations. The first one we have here is, how do we know if an area is considered sparsely populated? Good question. So this, I just want to take a moment to say, when regulations are released, it doesn't mean we have answers to everything that's in the regulations. So between now and November, we're actually having live communications with Transport Canada as well. So if you have any questions, please share them with us, and we can have the consolidated communication and update everyone during our monthly webinar before November. So things like, how do we know an area is sparsely populated? During the discussion period on the proposed regulations, there were several methods that TC recommended, which you can use Statistics Canada's report as reference. The keyword is as reference, because depending on the actual location you are, right, StatsCan may give you a much larger area. And then within your operational area, there may be local differences that's very different from the StatsCan for the overall area. So take one example is you can, at the end of the day, it's how you're justifying, right? Different methods that you can choose to use. For example, by surveying, are there residential homes or are there businesses within your area of operation, and estimating the total population based on that. And also timing is important. So the time of the day, are you operating during high traffic time, or are you operating during low traffic time? So that all defines, how many, what's the area's population. At the end of the day, just like, traditional regulations, the responsibility is on you as the pilot or operator to do your homework and find out if that's the appropriate, population for your area of operation. The next question. Okay, there is one hand. Tom, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, regarding the populated areas, are the campgrounds, like seasonal areas during winter, are they defined as populated areas?
Right. So that's a good question regarding when we talked about the time of the year or time of the day that you choose to operate. So again, the definition of populated area is simply, TC had put there simply by number, right? And then you as the operator are required to do your site survey to study the area and determine if that area falls within the population number required. So if you're reasonably sure, if you conduct your site survey process and you're reasonably sure that it is sparsely populated area, then that's when you can conduct the associated operations. Okay, moving on to the next question. Is the RPOC different from the Advanced or Basic Operations Pilot Certificate? Okay, so first, RPOC is issued to the operator versus the Advanced or Basic Pilot Certificate are issued to the pilot, right? So if we're comparing apples with apples, it would be a pilot can get basic certificate, pilot certificate, can get advanced pilot certificate, and then can get the level 1 complex operations certificate. Those are issued to an individual as a pilot. And then RPOC as the RPAS operator certificate is issued to either the organization or legal entity to say, now I have the certificate to operate under lower risk BVLOS operations. So the way to look at it is, let's say if you look at commercial vehicle operations, right? As a driver, you need to have the associated driver's license, either it's G or AZ license for driving a commercial vehicle. But then as the vehicle operator or the business owner, you need to have the CVOR, the commercial vehicle operating certificate, right? So that's equivalent to what we're talking about for RPOC. RPOC is about the overall operations versus pilot certificates are for individuals. Yeah, David, go ahead.
Yes, but the RPOC can be also an individual. It doesn't have to be an organization as well.
Correct. The RPOC can be issued if you're one-person operation where you are the pilot. you are the operations manager, you maintain and manage the equipment, and you also run the business operations, then the RPOC can also be issued to you as an individual. But again, at that point, you're wearing multiple hats, right? You're wearing the hat as the operator, which runs the entire operation, versus, when you're just a pilot, then your responsibility is for making sure the equipment you operate is safe, the general operational related safety, and conducting the actual flight. So those are different positions. Next question is, if someone has the advanced operations certificate, do they have to re-license? I presume the question is related to the level 1 complex. So if you have the advanced operations certificate, that's one of the prerequisites for getting your level 1 complex. So pretty much you need to have basic, and then moving up to advanced, then moving up to level 1 complex. You just need to make sure that before you conduct the actual flight, you meet the recency requirement for the associated pilot certification tier. But other than that, if you have a valid, advanced pilot certificate, you just have to go through the process required for getting your level 1 complex certificate. Next question is, what is the approximate time to complete the advanced training? So advanced, if you want to get just advanced pilot certificate, there's no training required. So technically speaking, you can go challenge the advanced written exam, go challenge the flight review. If you pass both, you get your advanced certificate. And that's part of the reason why to get level 1 complex, there is the mandatory requirement on completing ground school. Because again, advanced pilot certificate holders can achieve that without any formal training, right? So that's why for level 1, if you like to move up to level 1, then the minimum training requirement is the 20 hours of ground school completion. There's a question on micro drone requirements regarding SFOC. I believe the only SFOC requirement for micro drone right now is the advertised events. It's operating at advertised event. One sec, where is that? Okay, SFOC is required. Other than that, I believe that's the only section that's related to micro drones. There's another question regarding standing SFOC for advertised events. Is that to be eliminated together now? You need to apply for each event and pay the new fees. So standing versus individual SFOC is always a difficult one to justify, so to speak. Anyone here who's had event SFOC experience, please share that, because I've only had about a couple, so I don't have a lot of event SFOC experience. But in general, when you're justifying for SFOC application, is you have to describe what constitutes the project for you, right? So if you include in there to say, okay, I'm a drone light show and I provide drone light show for 3 venues, let's say in Ontario during this year, and they all have similar, airspace, similar, sites, similar audience setup, etc. You can choose to group them in as one SFOC application, but that's up to Transport Canada's interpretation to decide if they would accept them as one grouped application or individual application that requires fees. But that's a good question. Again, like I said, we are composing a list of questions to communicate with Transport Canada, so we'll definitely add that to our question list and keep everyone posted. Yeah, go ahead, Ralph.
So regarding the 20-hour ground school requirement, others might be in the same boat as I am, which is that in years gone by, we went to a ground school to get our basic and our advanced, and I'm not sure that there's actually any formal thing that Transport Canada publishes regarding what proof is required that you have the 20 hours ground school. And so that's something that I guess we need to look into.
I believe the regulation stipulates that you need to have the ground school. So first of all, as a compliant school, we need to issue the completion certificate to whoever that completes the ground school. And that's pretty much your proof as the pilot who have completed the ground school. And sometimes that, yeah, so depending on the school, that can be embedded into some of the other certificates. So typically, I believe what Transport Canada had said in the past is, for example, if someone completes the LTAC's Advanced Drone Pilot Certificate, that includes the curriculum already includes the 20 hours of ground school plus in-person training and final flight review, etc., then that advanced pilot certificate qualifies for ground school as well. Just like some of the certificates qualify for recency, is that would include, but that's something you would have to check with the school to confirm. Who's offering the ground school for level 1 complex and where to find that information. So if you look at, I believe 2 days ago when I checked on Transport Canada's drone school list, I didn't see a specific distinction on are they offering just ground school for advanced or are they offering ground school for complex level 1. So that's something we're checking with Transport Canada on when they're releasing the updated school list that will have the offering on just advanced or versus the schools that offer level 1 complex. But if you look at most of the schools, anyone who's offering compliant ground school for advanced operations are probably already offering the level 1 complex, because about 90% of the content that's required in the level 1 are very similar to advanced operations. But for example, like LTACs, what we did is we added 2 additional modules. So if you completed the advanced ground school and now you would like to qualify for complex, for level 1 complex, you don't have to redo the entire 20 hours. You just have to complete the 2 added modules to bring you up to speed on the level 1 complex. There are a few questions about search and rescue as well as the other government departments. So I'll answer all of those questions grouped together. So first of all, if you are running search and rescue or first responder operations, I believe previously the SFOC application provides a lot of flexibility for you to operate what's called saving human life type of operations. So with the EVLOS, now first of all, if you are a rural fire department or police, that all your operational locations meets the WHERE. A lot of the rural locations, if you meet the uncontrolled airspace 5 nautical miles away from aerodromes, under 400 feet, unpopulated or sparsely populated areas, then it would be easier for you because you don't have to get SFOC anymore, right? You can get your team with the lower risk BVLOS operations, get them the level 1 complex certificate, then that can just become part of your operations. And as the agency or as the fire station, you can apply for 1 RPOC that's issued to your station, and then you can operate lower risk BVLOS. But if you have operations at this point, it will become an internal assessment, right? Take a look at your geographical boundary and then define which areas fall under the lower risk BVLOS and which areas don't. So that means you may still have to go apply for SFOC if you want to conduct more complex BVLOS operations in the areas that don't belong within the lower risk BVLOS. And then related to that question was, does the new rules or do the new rules apply to government departments? The answer is yes. They still apply to other government departments, just the same way as it would apply to any pilots. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, so an example of flying a thermal drone within a park, which is about 2 nautical miles from an airport, like a boundary line is about 2 nautical miles. So to skip the SFOC, I would need RPAS operator certificate.
So if you're 2 nautical miles, if we look at the slide here, the WHERE for lower risk BVLOS is 5 nautical miles away.
So there is, okay, so I would need a SFOC.
Correct, you will still need SFOC. So if you look at the conditions, if your operation can't meet, even one of these conditions, that means you're back to the SFOC game.
I was hoping that this is just for the advanced pilot certificate, but
again, this is if you want to fly BVLOS, right? So if you're operating just advanced, then you don't have to worry about this. If you have EVLOS, if you use a visual observer and then you're operating EVLOS, then you don't need the BVLOS operations. Someone with initial MB, you have a question? Go ahead.
I'm wondering, will nav drone automatically refuse a authorization request when it is not within the BVLOS low risk parameters?
That's a good question. And that will be a question to NAV Canada on how they set up their system, if it's going to do that. But in terms of jurisdiction, I don't believe NAV Canada has the jurisdiction to to regulate them or define an operation if that's BVLOS or lower risk BVLOS or not. Having said that, they do have the jurisdiction to say we want to approve your operation or not. Right. So, but again, those are the questions to NAV Canada on how sophisticated their system is set up. I believe when you plan a operation on the NAV drone app, you get to select if you are BVLOS operation. And currently, if you are, you need to put your SFOC information. With NAV Canada, I mean, historically, we've seen system updates usually 6 months to a year after regulations came in, and they fully update their system. So if you ask me, it's going to take some time. Hey, Tom, another question?
AGRAS drones. Okay, so it's a medium, let's say medium drone, 25 to
150 kilos, yeah.
So flying in uncontrolled airspace within the visual line of sight.
Yeah, so here's our medium drones within visual line of sight, 25 to 150 kilos. Just the manufacturer need to declare it through the safety assurance declaration.
So I don't need an SFOC for that.
If you meet the medium drones within visual line of sight requirements, you do not need an SFOC. There's a question on timing on when is Altex releasing the training program for level 1. So that's the one in May. We're going to have the next webinar with Drone Vector on the level 1 complex certificate, the process, and the program release as well. Okay, related to the RPOC, just gonna quickly recap. If someone has an advanced certificate already, do you need another flight review? So if you want to get the complex level 1 certificate as the pilot, yes, you need to complete the ground school. If you haven't done so, you need to pass the online complex level 1 exam, and then you need to take a flight review that is for level 1 complex. So there is an additional flight review. Okay, so those were our, David, go ahead.
Do you know if the online exam is the same bank of questions of the advanced operations?
So we have the written exam online, we have the advanced, and we have level 1 complex. There are 2 Transport Canada knowledge requirement documents. So there's a TP, I can't remember off the top of my head on the number. There's a TP document for advanced ground school knowledge requirement, and then there's a TP document for level 1 complex. They're similar. There are a lot of overlapping areas. Having said that, there are also new areas for the level 1 complex knowledge requirement. So the questions, I mean, I don't think anyone can come on and say, I have all the questions from Transport Canada's data, question bank. So if we just look at the knowledge area requirement, there are new knowledge areas in the level 1 complex. Is the online advanced written exam, does that include questions on the new rules? So technically speaking, the Transport Canada exams are supposed to test to the required knowledge area, right? Which right now with advanced operations, we have new privileges that includes medium drones, EVLOS, and sheltered operations. So that means those there will be questions regarding those new areas in the advanced written exam. Hannah, you had a question? Go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Yaffi. I don't really ever fly beyond visual line of sight. So is it necessary for me to do this extra bit of training, get that certification? Or do you recommend like just get it as a extra insurance, I guess, in case I find myself in the situation of operating beyond visual line of sight?
Good question. I mean, this is something we also want to discuss in our business case analysis for BV loss operations. Is is it worth for you to start BV loss operations considering the steps and the cost is going to be? Ultimately, is evaluate what the cost and the effort is going to be and then comparing the cost and benefit, right? Just like any business. But if you're flying, let's say for a recreational purpose, if you're not flying for business purpose, then recreationally, again, it's how much time and effort. I'm sure everyone, even as a hobby, you've got your time and budget on how much you want to contribute to your hobby, right? So if this effort is within the range you would like to spend in terms of time and budget as well, then go for it. But if this is outside of your planned effort, then leave it until the time really comes. And then on the other hand, if you are providing a business service, then reflects back to, we always say we like to see people building successful drone business because that's what's going to help to grow the overall industry here in Canada. So building a successful drone business goes beyond just meeting the safe and legal regulation requirements. At that point, it involves your business planning, your targeted clients. What are they looking for? The value that you can create for your clients through the different services and operations, and the profitability study, right? Are they going to pay you enough to justify for your effort and the return on investment? So those are very case per case, right? So to make a profitable business, it's a bigger question on what services you provide, who are your clients, etc. But as a pilot, sorry, just to go back, as a pilot perspective, it also comes down to, at that point as a pilot, do you want to have an option to be hired? Because the RPOC is different from your pilot level 1 complex certificate. So let's say if you're interested in working for organization or drone teams that have RPOC and they would like to outsource or hire pilots that already have level 1 complex and then train them to the company procedures, then definitely as a drone pilot, having that level 1 complex is going to give you that competitive edge. Let's see. David, go ahead.
Yes, I believe this is a simple question I already know, but just to make sure, if I have already the advanced certificate operations, I don't have to redo it again or get it again with these new rules, right?
You have to meet recency requirement, which is every 24 months or 2 years, right? You still have to meet the recency requirement. But if you don't need to get the level 1 complex, then you can simply get your recency and continue operations under advanced operations. Next one, as a individual, what do I need to do to fly a DJI Air 3 for photos and videos for personal need? Okay, so the general regulation regarding drones in Canada is not defined by what you use it for, it's always defined by the risk level, right? So even someone who flies an Air 3 that's just for fun, they still need to define, okay, where do they fly? Are they flying across the street from Toronto Pearson versus are they flying, out there on the farm? Or do they want to fly 3-4 kilometers away from them? At that point becomes beyond visual line of sight, or are they just flying a couple of 100 meters around them to get some nice photos and videos? Again, without answering like those specifics, it's really hard to say what you really need. The basic you will need is a basic drone pilot certificate if you fly in that basic environment, right, outside of certain distance to aerodromes, heliports, away from people. But then that next level is advanced. And then if you want to get into BVLOS, that will get you into level 1 complex operations. Report a drone incident. There we go. So again, if you're a concerned drone pilot and you see someone who's operating unsafe or illegal, then this is where you can report unsafe drone use. The specific enforcement questions, we don't have the stats really That's a good topic on enforcement rate and how is it done. We'll be sure to include that with our questions with Transport Canada, and we'll hope to bring you some more updates. Regarding populated area, the operational risk assessment document, correct. So there are several other documents beyond the just the CG2, just the newly published rules. Right. So just to recap on that, there are operational risk assessment document, the AC 903-001. There are pilot knowledge requirements for advanced as well as the level 1 complex. There are the manufacturer documents on the requirements for the equipment specs, etc. So those are all the different additional documents that support the different regulations in CARS Part 9 or the new CG2. So it's important, not just to reference the one government section. And again, during our topic-specific webinar, we're going to be referencing the different material. And when we release the recorded webinar in a couple of days, we're also going to be releasing the resources documents that includes the links to the other TC documents as well as industry documents. Self-led online ground school. So just to recap on online versus in-person or instructor-led ground school. During the proposal period for the new regs, the initial TC discussion was the ground school needs to be instructor-led and minimum 20 hours. That has been slightly modified, which we're still waiting for the official confirmation. The new ground school to qualify for level 1 does not have to be total of 20 hours in person. It can be portion self-led online plus, but it needs to have at least some instructor-led component. Either that's a couple of hours of online webinar with the instructor or an in-person day on BVLOS operations. Those are up to the school's discretion. But at the end of the day, it no longer has to be the entire 20 hours with an instructor. Autonomous missions. Okay, that's an interesting question. Autonomous missions. So autonomous by TC standards means the difference between beyond visual line of sight and autonomous, right? Beyond visual line of sight is as a pilot, there's still a designated pilot in command. It's just I'm not there looking at the drone. I can be back here with my command and control station, which can be from a computer or a screen. But if something happens to the drone's operations, I can still overtake. I can still intervene and either have my safety procedures or my emergency procedures, etc. So that's beyond visual line of sight operations. Versus autonomous, which means at that point there isn't even a pilot. So everything is set up from the system end, right? So if something happens to the drone, then there will be predetermined steps in the system to automatically do that. Last time I asked that question with Transport Canada, the answer is autonomous. It's still at the R&D stage. You can, with SFOC, you can apply for anything through an SFOC, and then it really depends on you justifying the risk management and the safety level with Transport Canada. I believe there are different autonomous testings happening, but they're we're not even talking about rural, we're talking about, in the middle of nowhere type of locations. Right. Okay. There's a question on requirements for acceptable detect and avoidance system for low risk BVLOS operations. So that's what we're going to cover in the October webinar on the specific system. Unfortunately, this is still the period we're waiting for manufacturers to qualify and send in their drones through the safety declaration process, and we need to distinguish, is it an add-on detect and in-air detect and avoidance, device or procedure, or is it something that's provided by the manufacturer through, either LiDAR obstacle avoidance or the other obstacle avoidance sensors paired up with the transponder, on the drone that can detect any planes that choose to turn on their transponders. So the simple answer is we don't have that information at this moment, but we'll hope to bring you more updates. Next question, what is the plan for level 2? That's exactly what's on our question with the Transport Canada list is, since we have level 1 complex, what is the timeline and what's the plan for level 2 complex? Again, we'll bring that updates to everyone once we have the confirmation. Would any of our webinars count towards the recency requirements? Today's webinar does not count towards recency requirements. Future ones, depending on the specific topic, because the recency requirements, there's a specific list of content we're required to meet. So if any of them meet the content requirements, then they will be marked as recency qualified. Who will be doing flight reviews and for the new level 1 complex? Okay, so separately about flight reviewer. So if you're interested in becoming a flight reviewer for the level 1 complex, very similar to how flight reviewers came to be for the advanced flight review. What happens is, this is why we have the April 1 and then November 4th in between, we have the transitional time. Previously, if you want to become a flight reviewer for advanced operations, there was a 6-month exemption period that allowed schools and their associated flight reviewers to go through the exemption process. Essentially, it's a chicken egg question, right? What comes first? So there's an exemption process that allows the flight reviewers and the schools to go through declaration, get their compliant program, and then become that first wave of flight reviewers. And then those flight reviewers can conduct flight reviews. That's about the same process as the flight reviewers for level 1 complex. TC has the specific documents along with the exemptions. So again, if you're interested in becoming one, talk to a school that you would like to work with, because flight reviewers are still required to be associated and managed by a compliant ground school provider before they can conduct flight reviews. So recreational use, would these rules impact regular drone enthusiasts? Well, just to take a moment to go into the recreational users for a sec, and this is the part I welcome, maybe more of the recreational users in the audience to provide more feedback as well. With MAC no longer having the exemption, if you're flying for fun, then you fall under the typical drone pilot certificate requirement, either basic, advanced, or level 1 complex. As we discussed earlier, at the end of the day, it's not about why you fly. It's about the risk level. It's about where you fly and how you choose to fly. So I guess that's the first question for people who fly for fun. And then related to that would be, MAC still has the designated locations to support that recreation community. You just have to make sure you have the right level of pilot certificate. David, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, just to verify, the BVLOS and the EVLOS operations, are they restricted for FBP drones?
They are not restricted to the specific type of drones. It's the manufacturer would have to submit the necessary safety declaration to make sure whoever makes the drone meets the safety declaration requirement. James, there was a question just about drone vector. So first of all, I'll answer, Altex and Drone Vector are two separate legal entities. Drone Vector is the non-for-profit organization who are pretty much operating their designated areas from one of our flight fields. James, if you'd like to say a few words just from a Drone Vector perspective.
Yeah, so hi everyone, and welcome to our preliminary pre-launch of Drone Vector. So my name is James Logish, and on behalf of the management team, we're very excited to announce the launch of Drone Vector. We've created this organization, the nonprofit, by drone pilots for drone pilots, and the ambition is to have a one-of-a-kind facility for advanced level pilots. So be it recreational flying or improving your skills for commercial operations, or just better understanding all the changes going through the drone industry, we believe that Drone Vector is uniquely positioned to help you achieve your goals. The facility itself is 70 acres. It's just north of the city from right downtown Toronto. It's about a 45-minute drive, and it's right off Highway 400. So very easy to get to, again. So it's a great facility. It's unique, probably one of a kind in Canada. And so we're welcoming everybody, and we hope to see you on site very soon.
And we'll have more information with the main webinar to share with everyone too. the release of the regulations is not the end. It's also not the answer. It takes everyone's effort to interpret these regulations, and then taking it from regulations to, building business cases, to helping the commercial industries as well as general public to better understand the safety aspect, as well as the innovation aspect of drone technologies. So all of us, or majority of us here today, are drone pilots looking to benefit from the added level of certification and more flexibility of drone operations. But like I said, that effort goes beyond just regulation. So anything or any questions or feedback, we welcome. Please share using the, I believe we sent the reminder of the webinar information email to everyone. You can either use that email to get back to us, or in May when we have the drone vector release with additional information. We hope to see you actually on site for more in-person networking, and just in general, discussing of the industry landscape as well.